Meeting, and thank you, Jody, for turning on the recording. That's usually the first thing I forget when I do my meetings. It's at 7:32 p.m. on October 4th, 2021. And just a moment here, I want to adjust my screen just a bit so that I've got the agenda up too. Okay, so the first order of business at our meeting tonight is a public comment period. Is there anyone on this meeting who would like to make a public comment about a topic that's not already on our agenda? I see no one, so we would need a motion to close the public comment period.
I'll put a vote for the motion to cancel the public comment period.
Thank you, Pat. Randy, can we do a second from you? Okay. Pat moves and Randy seconds. All those in favor, say aye, raise your hand. Okay, that's unanimous. Okay, great. Our next topic is to approve the minutes. We have two sets, one from the September 16th and one from September 20th. I know on the 16th, Carolyn was not here, so she could not vote for this. So would someone move to approve the draft minutes from September 16th?
I move.
Moves. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Simon. Simon seconds. Is there any discussion about these, about the minutes from the 16th? Okay, if not, all those in favor of approving those minutes as to be final, please raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. And abstain, that would be Carolyn. Okay. So the next one is a September 20th meeting, and I think everyone was here or attended that meeting, so we can all vote on that. I need a motion to approve the minutes.
So
Randy moves, Simon seconds. Is there any discussion? All those in favor of approving the September 20th minutes, say aye. Your hand.
Can I actually approve them even though I missed out on the last part of it?
Yes.
Okay, then yes.
Okay, that's unanimous. Thank you, everyone. All right. Now, the next topic is actually celebratory. Mike Scott has completed his training and passed the, I think it's 6 New York State code enforcement exams. Is that correct, Mike?
No,
Mike?
what this is a civil service test that he has to take to get permanent appointment.
I
So
see.
he has been
Yeah.
on provisional since he was hired.
Yes.
And he is now officially ready to be appointed as a permanent.
Okay.
Well,
So
I did take enough tests, Ronnie, that I just had to take the right one, that's all.
the final one.
Yeah.
Okay, Mike, thank you. And congratulations on all of it, on all the training. So I would need a motion and a second to appoint Mike Scott as our certified zoning and code enforcement officer.
I'll move.
Simon,
I'll second.
moved. Pat seconds. All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
That's
Aye.
unanimous. Okay, Mike, you're officially,
Mike.
now you really have to start working now.
I appreciate that. I tuned in tonight to see whether I was going out hunting or whether I was coming into work tomorrow morning. So
Well,
I appreciate that.
come in early and work late now. Now that you're official, you got to do much more than you've been doing in the past.
Well, thank you very much. I will certainly do my best.
We know you will. You've been a great asset, and I suspect you will continue to be an asset to the village. I really appreciate it and like working with you. And I'm sure all of us feel the same way. So welcome on board officially.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right. So our next topic for tonight is discuss Lansing Meadows sidewalk with Eric Getzman. I see Eric is here. Eric, can you fill us in on the Lansing Meadows sidewalk?
Sure. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah, I wanted to follow up. John and I had a meeting last Thursday. And we were kind of, we've had a number of meetings with all the engineers for the sidewalk. And one of the comments came up that the engineer said there's a lot of issues we have on the sidewalk, whether it's the water line coming through. We've now found under drains on the road coming out, a number of other things. And the engineer for the village, asked, well, why don't we just move this on the other side of the right of way as an example? And part of the process with John was to come in front of you and just to see if the trustees would entertain that. Because we have another engineering meeting tomorrow with all the engineers, and hopefully another one later this week. Just that if it's an option to pursue if it gets too complicated. And I'm not asking permission to move it on the outside of it. We just need to have the discussion for the engineers to do what's right for the placement of the sidewalk. And it's really just because there's so much in there. And we've designed, a few different ways to make this thing work. And every time we get close, we have a few more obstacles that come up. So again, tonight's discussion is, if it goes outside the right of way, we need permission from the trustees to do so. So what I'm looking for is direction. So when we have our meetings, we can still pursue where this thing should be for the right reasons for the village.
Okay, do any of the trustees have any questions or comments about this request from Eric?
Do I understand this is to put the sidewalk on the other side of the street?
No, Randy, it's, we have a right of way that follows along Oak Crest. And it's like 25 feet off the road in the sidewalk is traditionally, when we came before you in early August, we requested to have the sidewalk built outside the right of way. Usually it's inside the right of way. But we've got the road, we've got the main water going down, we've got under drains coming underneath in the ditch, and the sidewalk would sit there. And what the engineers have looked at is we just moved it over 5 feet, which would push it outside of the right of way.
You went away.
But that would allow that to happen. That's all. It's not changes. It'd be moving it 5 feet south. If that's the engineers decide it's the right thing to do. Again, John, we had a discussion on Thursday. We've had more discussions on it. It's not going to be moved yet, but we just need to have the ability to do so. That's all. So again, we have a meeting again tomorrow to discuss this further. It's just as an option. If it ended up that was the right thing to do, we just want to make sure we're not, spinning our wheels on it. That's all.
Are there other questions, comments?
Sorry, I was muted. I don't have any questions, just comments. I think the sidewalk should stay in the right of way. Be piped with storm sewer, covered over. I think that's in keeping with how we do everything else, and it's doable. And from my understanding, the engineers think that can be done, and that was what the escrow amount was set for.
Well, we had some other issues, Simon, that came to light after looking at all this. That's all. We're just trying to figure out what the right way to do this. The information we have, and I was in front of you before, was a request from us to move it over because our engineers suggested it made more sense. And now we have engineers on both sides saying there are issues along here. And the question is, you want to design it for what the engineers think is the right way to do it, not just to say we should have it in the right of way. That's all.
I just haven't seen anything from the engineers that suggests there's any sort of issue with it. So unless I'm presented with a major issue as to why it can't be done, then I'm going to stick with this is the way it should be done. And all the information that I have right now, the up-to-date information that I have from the engineers says that this can be done in this way, and it's the right way, the best way to proceed, the safest way to proceed.
We've had a number of meetings. We're trying to get the final design done. That's all. I'm just asking is that while we have our meetings, do we have the ability to pursue, either way? That's all. I'm not asking for permission to put it outside tonight. I just wanted to bring you, and when John and I spoke on Thursday, he can't say, yeah, we can move it outside. That's a decision that comes among the board of trustees.
I agree
So
with Simon that the right of way is the safest place that we've seen for the sidewalk, especially because the ditch there with regard to both pedestrians and cars. So I'm inclined for the project to stay how it's currently designed in the right of way.
Okay, I'm just trying to bring the engineers, the engineers asked why we just don't move it over to eliminate some of the issues we have, that's all. That's fine, I just wanted to raise it to see if there's a board of trustees, or if you want the engineers to design, if they think would be work best for the village road, that's all.
Are there other comments or questions? I will speak then. I talked
I'm
with
sorry.
John. Go ahead.
Sorry, Ronnie, I was muted. I think we had the advice from John and from Mike. And I think, like Simon and Karen said, they advised it to be in the right of way. So I don't see why are we changing that? I suppose a simple question. If they've advised this is the safest way to go.
I'm not trying to change it, just that last week we came across a number of other issues. So we've had a number of meetings with all the engineers, our side and the village's side. And there's been more information that's come to light, because the sidewalk was never designed when we put it in. It was originally just a placeholder. This is where the sidewalk's gonna go. Since that point, our engineers have spent a lot of time on the water, understanding how the water sheds off the road, where the water comes. There's been some soft spots, so under drains and put under the road. So there's a lot of things that come into that ditch that's there. Also with the water main that goes down there. So these are all things that none of us knew were there. The more we uncover, the more we try and lay this thing out, the more obstacles we have to design a sidewalk right next to it. So the engineer suggested we just move the thing over a few feet. But by moving it over, though, it's so tight, it pushes out the right of way. Again, I'm not asking you to move it out of the right of way. We have more discussions. We have another engineer meeting tomorrow. We'll have another one hopefully the end of this week. But this is information since the last time we spoke was not available.
Okay.
Randy, did you have anything? I think you're the only one who hasn't spoken.
And unmuted, there we go. No, I would just leave it like the original plans. And, go to the engineers and have them draft it up based on the original plan. I agree.
Okay. I was about to say that I spoke with John today, and we have said almost consistently that we want the sidewalk in the right of way, and we want the ditch to be piped and covered. The problem with leaving the ditch there is it is a matter of safety. If we move the sidewalk becomes a chute for the water that runs off of the elevation from the property across the sidewalk into the ditch. If that ice is over, people can slip and fall and eventually roll into the ditch. So I think primarily our sidewalk law and our past practices have put the sidewalk, a public sidewalk that the village maintains, in the right of way. And in this case, it requires a ditch be piped for stormwater management. The sidewalk will have, there will be inlet grates put along the sidewalk to take the water away from the sidewalk and down into the pipe and move it toward the lake. And that's the safest practice. It is the common practice for the village. And now our sidewalk law requests that. So the engineers might have to make some adjustments to have the sidewalk installed there, but the village wants the sidewalk in that right of way, and we want the ditch piped and the stormwater moved away from the property and down, or the lake, in other words, toward the east from that property, and just keep it off of the road and keep it off of the sidewalk. So that's what we would want.
Okay, I hear you. I was just in front of you because there's your engineer who suggested we move it over. So I just wanted to bring it in front of the board, you know, the engineer.
The only engineer who said that it might be possible probably is Brent Cross. But our engineer, Dondi, and our DPW supervisor, John Courtney, say that our request for it to be in the right of way and have the stormwater ditch piped are the safest for the village and it's common practice. So that's what we would want. Brent is only one of the engineers, and I'm not sure why he would want it moved out of the right of way, but as a practice
I don't
and a
think,
policy, we want the sidewalk there.
sorry, right. I don't think he was suggesting, it wasn't Brent, it was when Donnie, we had the meeting as a village engineer.
No, that's not what I've heard from Dondi, and that's not what I've heard from John. So I'm not sure where that's coming from. They are in direct support of what the trustees are asking you to do tonight.
That's the only reason I
One
was in
thing-
front of you.
Go ahead.
That's all, that's the only reason I was in front of you, because it brought up their last meeting. That's the only reason. So last Thursday, when I was speaking with John about it, he goes, well, the only way we can discuss this is to, you know, try and get in front of the board tonight. Again, I don't want to take your time anymore of this, but that was the protocol to try and come in front of you to see if we can further discussion. So since that point, I assume probably more discussion has been had, but I haven't spoken with Donnie since our last meeting.
Okay. The other issue with this is that the escrow estimate that John Courtney put together includes the price of that pipe and the sidewalk being in that right of way. And we are urging you to fund that escrow so that you and we can start planning on that sidewalk being installed. So as soon as possible, please look to start funding that escrow to the full amount of $153,000, et cetera, dollars that John has recommended, so that the sidewalk can actually be planned and executed as a project. I know that if you do the sidewalk, the cost might be less, and if so, that's fine. After the sidewalk's done, inspected and approved by our engineers, any money that remains in that escrow will probably be returned to you. So as a village, I know the planning board and board of trustees have said that we want the escrow funded and funded as soon as possible to make it a formal project rather than discussing about the what ifs. The what ifs can come as we actually execute the project and get those done.
Again, I was just in front of you from the conversation with the engineer, so I won't take any more of your time.
Okay. Thank you, Eric. Okay. Moving on. I sent everyone a link to our village face mask guidance. And I'm opening it up. Jody, can you let me share my screen and we can talk about that quickly?
While you're doing that, I did look at it and it's pretty much as we discussed previously. I believe you said you were going to show this to the employees to see if you got any feedback. Has that occurred?
I copied everyone on the email about with the Google link. If I did not, I can do that.
Let's see. Yes, you did.
Okay. I'm just opening it up here.
And again, while you're doing that, I didn't see any major issues unless somebody else sees something that I don't. I was certainly curious to see what John and Mike and Jody, if they had any issues with it.
So I basically simplified it somewhat. I got feedback from Carolyn, and but basically, I just simplified the wording. It seemed a little awkward at times, so I just simplified the first paragraph. The village employees are required to wear a face mask. Made a subsection for village employees. There's another one for village visitors too. And as you read this, when an employee leaves a workstation or defined office space and might encounter another person, they would need to wear a mask. When another individual is within the employee's defined office space, closer to 6 feet, both individuals must wear face masks. When an employee does not have a defined office space, that's pretty much the same. And then when an employee is inside a common area, break area, or kitchen area, the employee is eating or drinking in this area, no face mask is required. However, the employee should maintain 6 feet of separation from other individuals. And that's pretty much all of the same wording, but it just seemed a little clearer to me. And then a note about please use the meeting software. Then the subsection on the village visitors, all village visitors are required to wear face masks before entering a building and for the duration of their visit. And then village buildings should prominently display signs that face masks are required for anyone in the building. And I saw that we do have a sign up on our second door going into the entrance at the village hall today. So that's already in place. Do you want to vote on this tonight, or do you want to allow for more time for wordsmithing?
I think it's fine. I could vote on it tonight.
I was just thinking that, see, I would require anyone from the public that's coming in to wear a mask, and any interactions that our employees have with the public. Like if we're asking the public to come in, if we don't know what their vaccination status is or even their COVID positivity and negativity status is. So we require them to wear a mask, and then out of respect that all of our employees should wear a mask when dealing with the public. So basically any interactions with the public, everyone's wearing a mask. But for the purposes of our employees when they're working together, because, you know, we only have a handful. I mean, I just don't know if we really need a policy to cover that, because they can kind of figure it out amongst themselves. And, you know, with John and Chris and Nolan, I mean, I think it's really hard for them to work together with masks on. Yeah, I just don't really see how they can do it. So I'm just kind of reluctant to have a policy that tells them that they have to wear a mask when I know that there's a lot of, you know, times that they just won't be able to. And Jody and Mike, I mean, they're working together. They know each other. I don't know if they just can't figure it out amongst themselves and just be comfortable with, you know, if one of them has an issue and says, hey, you know, Jody says, hey, Mike, put a mask on. I don't know. That's my feeling. And Jody and Mike can correct me if I'm wrong, but if they're comfortable just talking to each other and, you know, figuring it out amongst themselves, but just any interactions with the public, everyone wears a mask.
All right. Yeah. If there's any further discussion, go ahead. I was going to try to add in a bullet point. Perhaps it should be.
I don't know if then that just could be shortened, and rather than having a separate policy, it just goes into the pandemic preparedness plan. That if it's an airborne pandemic, that all interactions with the public require masks from both parties. And that way we don't really need a separate policy to cover it. That was just my thought, you know, open for discussion.
I'm just trying to capture some of the wording. So we don't want to say when interacting with members of the public who are visiting.
Both parties wear a mask. But I don't know if we need to have a policy that sort of requires masks for interpersonal interactions, because I just feel as though they can talk to each other. Or there's other things going on, like say with John and the DPW guys, where they just, it's, you know, if they're out paving a road and it's hot, or they're dealing with snow, it's hard to wear a mask and be, I feel as though they're comfortable enough with one another that they can just figure that out.
Yeah, outside, I don't have a problem because they can pretty easily stay 6 feet apart, or as far as possible outdoors. It's indoors. It's in the indoor spaces that concern me. With the Delta virus and potentially future variants of that virus become more transmittable through between people within a confined space, that we need to have something that says that we should not be really interacting with each other as employees or with members of the public without face masks. Because if anything like this hits our village, it won't take much to pretty much decimate our effectiveness. Even if people don't become extremely ill, they're still going to be out of work for several days. And that's primarily my concern. If the other trustee, if the trustees, the rest of the trustees don't feel that that's an issue, I don't have a problem with this. But this is just something that I've been tracking since the Delta virus came along. And I saw a recent article that the transmittability seems to have increased with this variant as they track the instances and how people are contacting the virus through interactions with family members and through the workplace. So it's not just a policy for us, but I also think it's reassurance to our public that we're at least trying to contain it.
Yeah, I definitely think the requiring the masks with the public interactions is a good thing. It was just the interpersonal interactions that I'm not so sure about, and I have a tough time telling people how to do that because it doesn't affect me. I'm telling them how to interact with one another, and I vote on that, but it doesn't affect me. So I'd rather have, their input and have our employees be comfortable with it. But in terms of interacting with the public, I think we need to project that image of, being careful and being safe and having everyone's health and safety and best interests at heart. So interactions with the public, masks, interpersonnel, I don't know.
Not so much.
They can figure it out amongst themselves.
Okay. I really don't have a problem with that. I'm glad for this discussion. I think it's a good thing for us to discuss. I put this together only because I had been tracking it, but I have authorship, but I don't really have ownership of this. It's really up to our trustees. If we're comfortable with just worrying about interacting with members out or public outside of our staff, that's fine too. So, but I would like to hear what the other trustees think. Thanks, Simon. No, your points are good. I agree. Carolyn or Randy or Pat, do you have any ideas or thoughts about this?
I want to know how the employees feel. Maybe we should table it until the Thursday meeting.
I sort of agree with Randy too. I mean, and I also agree with Simon in many ways, but I think the staff, and we were a small staff, and I'd like to see how they think about it. I think as far as meeting with the public, yes, definitely masks. And see how everyone internally feels, like Jody and John, Jody and Mike. It's just the two of them.
Okay.
But if one of the maintenance guys unexpectedly gets the Delta variant and they don't know it and they bring it to work and everybody else gets infected, we're in trouble. I understand that part, and that's what Ronnie's saying.
Yeah.
It's a tough one.
But
Well, maybe maybe the thing is, if they're coming into the office, they wear a mask. You know, I think, you know what I mean? If the DBW guys have to come into the office to meet with Jody or John, they should be wearing a mask, I would think, because
They have their own office space. They're in a different building and they're still all together. So I don't know. You
well,
know,
that would,
it's-
yeah,
It's a quandary, you know, basically I want to protect our staff. I want to protect all of our board members too, but then I don't want it to be an impediment to the work. So I have no problem with tabling this and talking about it Thursday. Because it's more of an impact to our board members and our staff members than the public. The public knows when they come into a building, they should probably wear a mask. So I don't have an issue with postponing this discussion. And Simon, if you can get into this document before our next Thursday meeting and kind of flesh out that first bullet point as to what you wanted to say, if anything, and then we'll have it more complete, and I can share it before our Thursday meeting so we can discuss it completely. So if no one else minds, we will just table this until that meeting. Thank you all. Appreciate the input. Okay. So the next subject is consider the purchase of the plate tamper and budget transfer. I talked with John this afternoon. And we talked with Jody too. We need to surplus the side loader for an upcoming auction. We're going to try a free auction that we've used in the past to see what we can get for this for the side loader. Our specific amount is we want to try to get at least $67,500. Anything above that would be great. Our first action from this is that we have to approve the surplusing of the old side loader for that auction. So I would need a motion to surplus that equipment and a second. Randy moves, Simon seconds. Any discussion about it or questions? Okay, all those in favor, say aye, raise your hand.
Aye.
Okay, that's done. The next thing we will need to do is move. John said that the plate tamper that he found that was at a good discount price is still available. We can still order it at the price that of his original quote. So we will need to move $8,005 into our contingency fund. And from Jody, please clarify, where are we moving it from?
Actually, I would like you to do 2 budget transfers because you got overdrawn when you did the AV system. So to authorize a budget transfer of $8,005 from A5112.2, which is permanent improvement capital outlay, to A5110.2 equipment to purchase the tamper, and also to transfer $2,999.99 to A1620.2 building equipment for the AV system.
Okay. We didn't budget the amount that we needed for the AV system.
No.
It came all afterward, didn't it?
Mhm.
Okay. All right. Thank
Is that
you.
one coming from the same place, from the permanent improvements?
Yeah, we've got 2 projects that are over like $250,000 that aren't getting done. So that makes the most sense. Just take it from there.
I'll move to make the budget transfer and purchase the plate tamper.
Both and for the AV system.
Well,
we do it
we should do a separate
individually?
resolution to purchase the tamper.
Okay, let's,
So
so
let's just do the
Simon
budget
moved.
transfers first to get the money where it needs to be, and then.
And I'll second it.
Okay, Simon moved, Randy second. All those in favor of moving the funds for the plate tamper?
Aye.
Okay, that was unanimous. And my second is to move funds $2,999.99.
That's
for
all
the-
gonna be one resolution.
One resolution,
Budget transfer resolution, yeah.
one budget transfer for all of the money. And then you will ensure that the monies go into the right funds for the contingency. Or are those both going in to the same fund?
So what you're doing is you're approving budget transfers. So
Right.
what that is giving me the power to move the money from this budget line item to another budget line item.
Okay,
So usually at the end of the year, we'll do a bunch of them together.
right.
But just since they're such large amounts and we know what they are, we might as well do them as we go along.
Okay.
It makes more
Okay.
sense to do that.
All right. All right. Yeah, doing all of them at one time gets pretty messy. I mean, not messy, but there's a lot to take in. If we do it whenever they're needed, we can have a little bit better discussion probably. Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
All
So
right.
So
Is
then your
that-
next resolution, so that one was moved by Simon and seconded by Randy, and you approved that. So
Yes,
now
yeah.
you need to go on to do a resolution to purchase the plate compactor.
Say that again, to purchase it and what?
To
Oh, the
purchase it.
compactor, okay.
Yeah, okay, so we need a resolution. We need to move a resolution to allow John to purchase the plate tamper,
For $8,000, $8,005.
$5, yes.
So moved.
Randy moves,
I'll second.
Simon seconds. All those in favor, say aye, raise your hand. That's unanimous. Okay, so that takes care of that. Thank you, Jody, for guiding us through that. The next topic, mayor's comments. I really don't have any comments for tonight. I could try to dredge up something, but I just don't have any comments at this moment for things that are going on because they're all kind of up in the air. There's no progress. The one thing that I will say is that John and his crew are going to try to install the culvert over on Graham Road starting tomorrow. But with this rain again, it's hard to say how safe that stream is going to be. It just seems like every time they start to plan it, the clouds move in and it rains. So they're going to attempt it. Which reminds me, Simon, I'm going to send out an email to our Dark Drive listserv tonight to let everyone know that that project might start tomorrow and there's a good chance that the road's going to be blocked so that they'll need to work out alternate routes out. So I will do that after this meeting. And so I don't have any comments. Is there any general discussion? Go around the table. Randy?
I have three.
Okay.
One is, I haven't seen any, what do you call it, abbreviated notes of the planning board meetings in a couple of months. So I don't know how we can maybe get that back on track so that we can see the notes or the minutes.
Okay.
The second thing was I've pretty much completed that retirement healthcare survey. And maybe we can discuss that on Thursday if you want to. I'm sure we just do that out. I didn't know if you want to have a private meeting or if we just do it all together, but it's tough. There's like 15 or 20 different municipalities and the stuff is all over the place.
Yeah.
It's not just like everybody's 80-20. It's all over the place. So
Is it something you can send to us in advance and let us read through it? Do that, and let's talk about it on Thursday. We might not be able to come up with a final decision, but at least we can further the discussion.
Right,
Okay.
agreed.
And what's the third thing?
The third thing is I'm reading a news clipping here. I'm going to leave the individual's name out. He faced a deficit for the first time at the Senior World Championships, but rebounded to capture his third title at the 7-3 victory over Tajima Sakunov of Slovakia on Sunday in Oslo, Norway. So I'm saying congratulations to Kyle Dake, actually to Jody and your son.
Yeah,
Thank you.
congratulations.
I guess he wrestled and you weren't there.
No, but we had him on the 75-inch TV in the garage. We got to watch all of his matches, so it was nice.
Probably was a
Congratulations.
pretty good seat too with the TV there.
That's it.
Congratulations. That's great.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Oh,
Yeah,
hang
Oh,
on a second. Carolyn, then Bill.
Okay, I have 3 too, Randy. Simon, maybe you'll one up us with 4. So you guys know I went to the NICOM meeting and I thought it was very informative. And I mentioned 3 things in my little memo to you. The first is cannabis, but Mike has already told us that he knows that we have the deadline to opt out coming up on the end of the year, and he will be presenting something to the planning board first and then to us. So we need to know that the cannabis opt out is coming up, but it's not something that we have to talk about now. Then I had 2 other inspirations that I wanted to put on the table, but we don't have to talk about them now. I'm just gonna, go over them now, and maybe Ronnie, there's a time when you can put them on the agenda. The first is, has anybody heard of community choice aggregation? So Ronnie, you know about this program already. Has
Yes.
the board already considered and discussed it, or has it not been broached yet?
No, we sort of broached it as part of our CSC task force, but at a high level. The CCA can be very valuable to a municipality, but it requires a lot of administrative work. The only way it might be beneficial for us is if we can hire a CCA manager. There are several businesses that will manage the CCA for you, but that cuts into your profits.
Yeah.
The-
Well, that's what I went to. I went to a presentation they're called Good Energy, and they are a CCA aggregator. They're
Yes.
the one that NICOM is sort of partnered with and vetted, and they have a lot of experience. A couple towns in New York, and then a ton of towns in other states. And New York is like the 10th state to start this legislation. So what I want
Right.
to say to everybody who's not exactly sure what I'm talking about yet is if you go to the NYSERDA website and you look up community choice aggregation, it's a legislation that allows a municipality to group all of its residents, not the municipality's electricity, the residents' electricities together, and sort of like Costco, you're going to bulk shop for energy as a group, as a municipality. And then rather than opting in, you opt out. So that's a little bit different. So people, if they want to do what they're doing, they would opt out. And if they want this lower price, you only do it if that company that you hire gets you a lower price. If not, then it's not worth it. So I asked them for names of places where they have been successful and what price they had and what price they got. And what I told Jody was, it's amazing. This is only on the supply side. The delivery is still through NYSEG.
Yeah. Delivery's the same.
Every single municipality in New York State has a different deal within it. So they'll go from county to county and town to town, and they'll say, "Oh, we a couple places in Syracuse, they're on National Grid. They get their electricity so cheap, we can't do anything for you guys." But then almost everything in like what is that called, the Hudson Valley, for some reason they pay a ton in electricity supply, and they could get all of those towns better deals. So if we decide to go with somebody like Good Energy, we will ask them to look into what they could get us, and then we proceed or don't proceed. What I was telling Jody was I felt like I was at a timeshare pitch, because I'm like, this seems like too good to be true. Like the math, you only come in if you get a better price. So where's the rub? So I would really like everyone else to also look at this,
Right.
and go to that NYSERDA website and look up community choice aggregation and tell me that it's not a good deal just to look at what the number would be. That's what I want to do. I'm at the place where I want to say, what would our number be? And, you know, so could we put this on the agenda sometime, Ronnie?
Of course. Of
Okay.
course we can. It just depends on when we have enough information to present. How soon could we do that? So if we can get enough information together, we can do it at our next nightly meeting. That would give us some time to look at it. And if we don't have enough information, we'll just drop it from the
I
agenda.
already have plenty of information. I mean, I took the stuff from both NICOM, but also from NYSERDA, because I'm trying to find, like, I don't want to be overly influenced by good energy. So that's why I went to NYSERDA, which is just New York State, to see what they had to say about it.
Right.
But I'd love to put that on the agenda and look at it and see if it's a good deal for us. And
There's
then,
also the Tompkins County Council of Governments has a specific committee, the Energy Committee, which I sat on, that is looking at how TCOG members can buy into CCA2. The last conversations that we've had from them is that it's just not feasible for every municipality, which we already knew. But if there's a company now that is willing to come in and at their cost evaluate the energy sector and give us a model for getting a better price and how to achieve that successfully, then that's a good deal. So yeah, we've got lots of resources within the county, state, and your information that you're bringing to us. So we can try that for our next nightly meeting on the 18th.
okay. Yeah, you can group even more municipalities together and get an even better price, especially because we only have, 3,000 people, which I used to think was really small. And then you go to NICOM and there's like all these 300 person villages. So then I was feeling really good about our size.
Yeah.
That you can group a bunch of municipalities, and theoretically, the more, the lower the price, but you can also go forward with just your own.
Mm-hmm.
Other people are slower, and it's only a short-term deal. I mean, a couple of years. If in a couple of years everybody else is getting on board, then you could change your mind and group together.
Right.
So there's
That's
some
good to know.
So that was one item I wanted to put on the agenda. The other item I wanted to just think about, and Jody, you can already tell me, I went to one that was just about policy review and just like, what policies do you have in place and how often do you review them? And being new to the board, I just wanted to ask that question. Do we have a policy for reviewing our policies, and have they been reviewed, and does anything need to be reviewed?
So we do review of the policies that have a mandatory annual look at it, and we do that at our organizational meeting. So like our procurement policy, investment policy. So we have that all built into our annual meeting. We have a policy book, because we attended, Ronnie, I think, and I both attended the same meeting about 3 or 4 years ago and came back and said, okay, we need this policy, and this policy. So yes, I think we are up to date. I think we have everything that we need.
Okay, perfect.
The thing we might do, just not tonight, obviously, is go through the list that you made, and I can check off the ones that I know about, and Jody can check off the ones that she knows about. I didn't see many that we might not have. There was one, I can't recall what it was, that was questionable, but it might be buried within something else and it's just hidden.
But we might not need it. I just wanted to just at least,
we do look at policies annually, as Jody said, but there might be a policy that could be beneficial to us. We don't know. So thanks for bringing back the list. Anything that comes out of NICOM is usually worthwhile in following up on it. So appreciate the time you spent there and the time to write the report to us and helping us put these on our agenda. Thanks, Carolyn. Anything else, Carolyn? You're going to go for 4. You got to beat Randy. No, okay. Bill.
2 things. One with regard to the cannabis. I think there's a requirement, or there's a possibility of a permissive referendum to be allowed. So we have to allow ourselves time. We can't just wait till.
Don't have to have that done by the deadline.
I'm sorry?
You do have to have a permissive referendum, but it does not have to be by the 31st.
All right, but you have to at least get the whole thing started. Don't wait
Started,
until
yes.
December 30th to do this. Is my
Correct. So
recollection.
just the vote is the only thing that has to be
Yeah,
done.
they're two different things, but you can't just say, okay, for a Christmas present, we're going to do this December 24th or something.
We're right. The what I did with the process is because there was early information and it was very fluid. I sat down this past week and put together a workflow diagram of what we have to do. Not many details in it, just the steps. And I'll pass that along to everyone. I'll copy you too, Bill. You probably know it more than we. The one thing I did find out from NICOM that was very interesting is that if you do a permissive referendum, make two propositions, not one for opt-in or opt-out, but two. One for the consuming
Right.
cannabis on site, and a second for retail sales. That way people can choose both one or none that they want to opt out of.
And the second thing is, I guess the DPW cleaned up brush slims and everything else. And they got
Yes.
rave reviews from my wife today, which is no easy task. So tell them they did well.
Okay. I don't know if it was our DPW crew or the town. I think it might be the town that does that. Is that correct, Jody?
I saw the town trucks today.
Whoever it was, they get my hat, tip of my hat to them.
Yeah, I wish I could get them to come collect all those limbs and put them where they want them, but that's a hard part to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, mine was gone too today, so I greatly appreciate it. We'll have to write a note of thank you to the town's DPW guys and tell them thanks. Okay. Anything else, Bill?
No, that's it.
Okay. Thank you. Pat.
The only thing I'm going to send out to you tomorrow, I talked earlier with Jody. Two things. We're pretty much finished with the one plaque that or whatever the shadow box we're putting up in the office with the book, Rita Schmidt's book, and I've written up with the help of Jody, and I got comments from Lynn to put in, and so we've got this. So I'll send it out to all the board. Normally, I thought I should have just sent it to the committee, but Jody mentioned it might be nice for the board to get it. So that's one. And then I can I can move on to the second thing, which is the plaque that for Don Hart-Till. I had old flyers from when he was running as a trustee. So my dates were verified by Jody's. Well, first of all, I found them and then I verified them with Don and I sent them to Jody and they were right, Jody? It's just so the one thing we need is when we dedicate it, because I can't get the plaque made until I have the dedication number. And pretty much we're doing the same format as the Sylvia one in the other conference room, which was our original. So I just want board, to look at it and see if you've got any changes or things you'd like to see.
Okay.
That's it. And then we'll work on the final one, which is the Wall of Honor for the mayors and whoever wants to be. I'll go back to the committee, but does the board want to be involved in that, or should I just stick with the committee members? Or just run it by them and then give you what the final thing was and then you make comments. So I don't know how everyone else feels about that. Because quite honestly, everybody has ways they want to do it. And I just want to get it in. So anyhow,
If
but
you
look
want to
at
get it
the,
done quickly, the smaller the group that's making that final decision, the better.
well,
And
I
then
had a small
look at
group,
it.
but they go back, two of them go back sometime and they want all sorts of things put on, but that's not what it should be about, I don't think. But so if board can help, I'd be happy.
Okay.
I think it should be mayors, but then they want to name people that were involved in the founding of the village. There's too many people.
It's easy to leave someone off when you get
Exactly.
into a
I'd
list.
rather not anyone than suddenly someone's not mentioned and then someone will be upset. So they weren't even mentioned in her book, in Rita's book, because she just put them down as friends and neighbors of the village.
Right.
Anyhow, so that's all. So I'll send out tomorrow final parts, and then if you approve it, we're gonna go ahead. Hopefully.
Okay. Thank you, Pat. Anything else?
Don't think so.
Okay, Simon, you have anything?
Yep, just some updates from the town board. They're kind of busy at the moment. So NICEAG cancelled the Bell Station auction, which I'm sure everybody heard about. A lot of people were kind of, excited about that, but it may not really mean a whole lot because we don't know what NICEAG plans to do. So they might just be pulling it off for a little while and then wait for things to sort of cool down and then throw it back up to an auction. They could have a private sale, or they might start some discussions with the DEC or the Land Trust, but nobody really knows. So the town has hired the services of a negotiator, a liaison, to try to get some negotiations started between NICEAG, the town, the county, DEC, Land Trust, and just try to find out what's going on. So that was the big thing from last week. They're also going through budget discussions, which raised some questions for me because then they started talking about how they're going to spend ARPA monies. And so I was just wondering, do we have to declare when we're going to spend that, how we're going to spend it, or does it just go to next year's budget? Is ARPA included in the budget or is it separate? How does that work?
I believe that we don't have to declare how we're going to use it. We will obviously give the public notice, but we had decided to go with water projects because that is our village fund, municipal fund, that is the weakest. The money could therefore be used to supplement a couple of water projects. For instance, the Warren Road water main expansion or replacement, and the Graham Road West water work. So those two projects. I think that we won't have any problem spending the money within the time constraints of the ARPA funds, which I think we have 4 years to spend and 3 years to commit. So I think we'll be safe with that.
Okay, so we don't have any time frame, immediate time frame. We don't have to say by December 31st, this is what we're doing with money. We can hold off till next year, year after.
Right. Jody told me today that we don't even have to report anything this year. The first reporting cycle for NEUs or what is the term, Jody? Non-entitled units, which villages are. Our first reporting cycle is in April of next year. Which we might or might not have something that to really report. I think you only report projects that you've started using the money for and how much you've used. And then after that, I think it's only once a year that the non-entitled units have to report unless they change it. But hopefully it won't be very much paperwork for us because we'll be a few simple water projects, and then until the money's gone, and that's all we have to show, and just keep records of everything.
Yep. Okay, so then the only other things from the town, the next meeting they'll be discussing the moratorium on building and development in the RA rural ag zone, and then there's a public hearing on that. Well, most likely at the end of October, so that one should be lively.
Yes.
And then all that going on, there's the town board elections too. So that's November 2nd. And I think we just need to keep reminding village residents that they can vote in that. I know Hugh and Aaron had like a meet the candidates thing in mid-September at some point. I think they have another one coming up at Rogues. I'm not sure. I haven't heard anything regarding Ruth and Joe if they're having a meet the candidate session, but so with everything going on there, then they've got a town board election, so it's pretty lively.
Lively. Have Simon, just out of curiosity, have they said anything about the opting in or opting out of the cannabis law?
I didn't hear it at the last meeting.
They have a committee. I just wondered if anything has come out of the committee yet.
No, I haven't heard anything. The last I heard, they were just discussing. They were bringing up the same thing, that there's an opt-in or opt-out, and that was as far as the discussion went. So,
okay. All right. Anything else, Simon?
That it?
No, those are all good reports. Thank you all. So if there's nothing else, I think that we can adjourn. They need a motion and a second to do that.
I'll move, we adjourn.
I'll second.
Okay, moved by Randy, seconded by Pat. No discussion. How you're just going to leave? All those in favor, say aye, raise your hand. Okay,
Exactly an hour, it looks like.
good meeting tonight. Thank you, everyone.